Hello, it is Mercedes Samudio, back again, your friendly neighborhood in parent shaming expert parent coach. I'm on to do another rant, but also to share some amazing enlightenment about why we should just all agree that parent shaming really doesn't actually do anything. One of my friends from high school, Corinne, thank you, tagged me in a really interesting post where it's this wonderful video, so to speak, where the hashtag of the video is bad parenting. And it proceeds to go into how if your child is doing X, it's because you, parent, have not done what you're supposed to do. And there are about like 5, 6, 7 of these things. And as I read through each of them, I've kind of realized a few things. And the first thing I realized after going through the whole video and then looking at the comments is something that I think everyone who has ever shamed a parent publicly, not just in your mind, but you've actually said something out loud, has probably failed to realize. And that's this. When you decide to publicly judge a parent for quote unquote bad parenting, what you're doing is actually making it a lot harder for that parent to ever reflect on the issue that you consider bad. Let me break that down for you. What that means is that if you are constantly jabbing them in their heart, which is what you're doing when you're shaming a parent, you're pretty much taking a sharp object and you're like, right in the heart of who they are. And you're saying, hey, you suck. Hey, you're horrible. Hey, if you would just do this, your kid would be better. Pretty much what you're doing is you're creating a wound in that parent that instead of them taking the time to say, I wonder if what they're saying makes sense, let me try, they're spending more time bandaging up, covering up, and healing that wound. And I'm pretty sure that's not what you wanted when you decided to make such a flippant judgment on whatever that parent is doing. And I'll be even a little bit more blunt with you about this. When you decide to judge a parent for whatever parenting decision they make, you're essentially taking away all of their faculty and all of the space that they need to be reflective on what it is that they would rather be doing in their parenting. That's not to say that you can't have opinions, because no matter how much I do these videos or write books or share about this, everyone has an opinion. Hell, I'm on here sharing my opinion right now. That's not the issue. The issue is that we constantly want to tag things as bad parenting before we want to understand that a parent, regardless of what you think of them, is still a flesh and blood human. Becoming a parent does not give them this armor of invincibility where they can take whatever you throw at them. Just as we condemn parents for hurting their children with verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and things like that, that's what shaming does to the parent. They get hurt. When you say, hey, you suck. Hey, you should have done this. Hey, I wouldn't have done that if I were you. Hey, your kid is bad because of you. That, no matter how much the parent gets defensive or curses you out or shuts down, it fucking hurts. It feels horrible to be told that a huge piece of who you are and how you identify is going haywire. It sucks when people come to you and say, dude, you really suck at that. And here's the deal. No matter how nice you try to wrap it up, that's what a parent hears when you come to them and you judge them without sitting down with them and getting to know who they are. They don't hear, hey, I love you, I care about you, but they don't hear that. All they hear is, wow, I really suck. Wow, I really don't know what I'm doing. God, I hope I don't mess my kid up. And sheesh, I hate this person right now for talking to me about this. I have yet to meet a parent, whether they are abusive or not, who feels good about being told what a horrible, bad parent they are. There's no way for us to help heal our children and help heal our families by damaging and attacking the people who are the stewards of their family. You cannot do it. You can't even debate me on that. You cannot save a child if you are beating up the person who is caring for that child. Here's why, especially if you're thinking, screw you, Mercedes, yes, I can. Here's why you can't. If a parent of a child is treated badly, shamed, blamed, name called, ignored, hurt, ridiculed, whatever, what do you think they do? Do you think they go, wow, thanks so much. That ridicule really set me straight. Let me get my parenting book out and do it right? No. What they think is, wow, I need to hide a little bit more because the more I show myself, the more people ridicule me. The more I come out, the more people beat me up. So let me just stay in my cubbyhole and try to figure out what to do with me and my child on my own. And as anyone who watches this video knows, that comes with any problem or issue you have. When you try to stay by yourself and isolate yourself to manage an issue, 10 times out of 10, that issue gets worse because now whatever the issue was, the bad behavior, the tantrums, the crying, the whatever it is that you shame that parent for, if they try to isolate and stay to themselves and not get any support, now that behavior has become compounded with guilt, with shame, with anxiety, with frustration, with anger, with sadness, with depression. So really what you've done is just kind of commit that child to even more pain and more suffering because you refuse to understand that telling a parent they're bad does not spur in that parent reflection and growth. Nobody grows from being shamed or ridiculed. And if you're like, Mercedes, this is just you talking. It's not just me. There are a multitude of people who talk about shame. Brene Brown, one of the major ones who's out there and is really big on shame, look her up. She'll tell you, shame doesn't help anybody. It doesn't. Thank you. I appreciate that, Wendy. Another thing, for all of those people out there who love using research to prove that when kids are traumatized, they go into they have all kinds of issues, right? The ACEs study showed us that when a child has adverse childhood experiences, they grow up to have so many issues in terms of mental health, in terms of their own emotional health, in terms of their body and their weight and the way that they see themselves. Well, here's a news flash for all those people that use the ACEs study to shame parents. These parents were once children who also were probably traumatized and hurt. That is why they've grown up to have the defenses they have and have the responses they have to their child. I want to reiterate, having a child does not ignore or erase or dismiss all the experiences that you had prior to having a child. You are still a human. You are still someone who is deeply affected by your childhood, your young adulthood, your teenage years. Having a child doesn't eradicate that. And when we shame parents, we re-victimize them, especially if they're people who came from really traumatic childhoods. And in this instance, I'm not talking about trauma just as abuse or sexual abuse. I'm talking about even kids who were in poverty growing up, even kids who maybe just had a really hard time growing up. There wasn't any deep abuse, but they just had a lot of issues. Those kids grow up to be parents. And if they've never had the support that they needed to move through that, having a kid doesn't erase that for them. So when you look at that parent having a hard time and decide, they suck. I got to tell them how bad they are. Everyone needs to know that you got to raise kids, blah, blah, blah. When you do that, you're just re-victimizing that parent. You're not giving them the space to say, I was hurting and I didn't know what to do. I was frustrated and that was the only tool I had. And here's the news flash. For those of you who say, well, they need to just ask. They need to just come out and get help. Do you know how hard it is to ask for help when you're terrified that you're going to get ridiculed, when you're scared to death that people are going to make fun of you or look down on you because you can't handle your children? So again, when you look at shame and parent shaming, it's not just about telling the parent how bad they are. It's really about saying, I see that this parent is struggling and I wonder what it is that they need. Telling them that the result, that their child's bad behavior or that their child's responses are a result of their bad parenting doesn't help the child move forward and it doesn't help the parent move forward. We've really got to become better as a society with seeing discomfort and seeing things that make us kind of scratch our heads. And instead of immediately blaming and trying to point a finger saying, this looks like a system that needs some support. We need to get out of this idea of dysfunction and disorder and illness and bad versus good and really start to understand. Now, I'm going to stay on my soapbox here and really understand that when parents are struggling, that when parents are having a hard time and they don't make the best decisions for their parent-child relationship, it's not because they're bad, they're horrible, they're the worst, they don't know what they're doing. It's because they are humans who are also struggling and having a hard time. We give so much empathy to almost every other relationship. But when it comes to that parent-child relationship, we're so quick to blame a parent because we feel like we're saving children that way. And I know that when I started out on this path way back when, like 2000 something, I know I felt the same way. I wanted to save parents and teach them the right ways to parent and just get them. And I realized as I sat in parents' homes, as I listened to parents' stories, that they're human too. And I even realized that even on my own journey of trying to heal from my relationship with my mom, that even though I'm not a parent, you can get me for that if you want, even though I don't talk to my mom, I know for a fact that our relationship isn't a point the finger, she's to blame, I'm the best kid, she broke me. It's not about that. It's about the fact that she and I were two humans who had a lot of struggles and a lot of issues, and for whatever reason, our relationship could not withstand those struggles. It doesn't make her a bad parent. So as I do this work from the perspective of not being a parent, I don't come to this work saying, hey, parents, I know everything, listen to me. No, I don't do that. I come from this with this idea that if we do not start treating parents with more empathy, more compassion, if we don't start seeing them as messy, authentic humans, we're really going to do a disservice to the families and the children that we continue to try to save. You can't save a child and leave their parents to rot and writhe in their own pain. You can't do that. And again, to my colleagues who do this work in DCFS and DPSS, when you guys are doing this work, I know that you guys have a hard task of trying to figure out, does this child need to stay with the family because they need help, or do I need to remove this child? That's not what I'm talking about here. To those of you who do that work, I commend you. You're doing amazing work. Franklin, I see you there. I know you've done it before. You know, to some of my other colleagues, that is a hard piece of work to do. So I'm not talking about that. But what I'm really talking about, again, is those everyday parents who, as humans, just trying to get through their day, they might yell, they might do the timeouts, they might not always have the positive parenting responses that we think they should have. But instead of throwing research at them, instead of making them feel like they should know better, let's give our parents a space to sit down and say, I don't know better, and I don't know what to do, and I'm not sure I'm ready to move through this right now, but I do need a space. Please give me a space. That's what I want us to start doing. That's why I wrote Shame-Proof Parenting. Shameless plug. That's why I did the End Parent Shaming hashtag. Not so parents who are abusive and parents who generally do hurt children can get away with murder, so to speak, but for those everyday parents who are on Facebook trying to find some solace in the funny comics that talk about children, right? To the parents that I've worked with and the parents that I will work with who say, I need help, Mercedes, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to help my kids. I want to be one of the voices who creates this space for those parents. And I also want us to move away from feeling like we've got to blame parents in order to change them. For those of us who work in mental health and as a healer, we know that change doesn't work when there's shame, blame, and guilt all wrapped up in it. We know that. And I want other people who don't do this work, who aren't maybe as attuned to the mental health community as I am or some of my colleagues are, to really understand that, yes, there's a straightforward way to deal with things, but when you're dealing with someone's heart, when you're dealing with someone's identity, and just in case you're wondering, that's what parenting is. It's your heart. It's your identity. When you're doing that, you cannot create change by blaming that person, guilting that person, and shaming that person. You just can't. If you're not willing to sit with that person and give them the space to heal or to figure it out, then leave them alone or refer them to someone who can. And it doesn't have to be a therapist or a coach. It could be a community leader. It could be someone else who knows what they're doing. It could be another kind of parenting support group that you know about. But I don't know who said this, and maybe someone else can, tell me the quote. But if you're not going to do anything, at least, if you're not going to be helpful, at least do no harm. And that's really what I mean in the parent shaming idea. If you're not going to help, at least don't harm the parents anymore. Again, if you can't see a parent and say, I have empathy, I have compassion, I want to help them, then you don't have to. Just step back and say, hey, I don't have the space for it. Maybe someone else will help them. And allow someone else to do that. But let's stop feeling like or hiding behind research and this idea that we've got to save kids as our crutch for continuing to shame parents. Because again, I'm sure I'm not the only one who believes this, as I'm seeing in the comments, and I see you guys' comments. Thank you guys so much for being on and being supportive. As I'm seeing in the comments, I'm not the only one who agrees that in order for us to help parents, in order for us to really help children and help families, we can't continue to condemn parents for doing things that they may not know how to do as well as you do, sitting on the other side of your computer typing up a whole bunch of mess, right? Let's create a space where parents can say, I'm doing really well, thank you, or I'm not doing well and I don't know where the hell to go with this, and everything in between. And let's even open that space up for parents who sometimes fight, for parents who sometimes say, I don't want your help. Let's open up space for them too. Because again, if that parent has put up so many defenses that they are behind a wall of isolation and guilt and blame, it's going to be really hard for them to take advice or to take anything from somebody because they have developed the protective factors that they need to sustain. In my book, I call those parenting defense mechanisms, so I talk about that concept a little bit more. But we can't get mad at the parents who say, I don't want your help, I raise my kids the way I want to, this is my house. We can't blame and shame them either. Because again, that parent has done what they needed to do, so that way they don't continue to get shamed and they don't continue to be hurt by the accusations and the attacks that they get. So again, let's open up our hearts more so we can be more empathetic to parents. Not so we can let them off the hook for not making decisions that we don't agree with, but so they have a space to tell you where their motivations are, to say, I don't know, I don't want to know, I'm not ready. Let's give them that space. Again, we do that with almost every other identity and relationship, and we don't do that with our parents. We don't allow our parents to make mistakes. We don't allow our parents to refuse help. We don't allow our parents to be full, authentic, messy humans. And we've got to be able to do that. Posting things online and sharing how much, upset you are, how upset you are about how parents act, that's not helpful. What is helpful is empathy and compassion. What is helpful is to say, I don't have any empathy and compassion for parents, so I'm just going to zip it. That's helpful, right? So again, I'm probably going to do a lot more of these rants just because I'm at this point in my career, in my personal life, and my professional life where this is my life's mission, right? I don't have children, don't plan on having children. What? But I also don't plan on telling parents what to do and how to do it. I plan on standing right beside you saying, you are worthy, you are amazing, and even in your messiness, even in the times when you don't know what you're doing, you still are deserving of respect, compassion, and empathy. And that's my life's work. So thank you to those of you who watch. Thank you to those of you who share. Thank you to those of you who comment. You'll be getting a lot more of these, and I'll be posting them probably on my YouTube channel as well so more people can see it. But this is really what the heart of In Parent Shaming is about for me. And again, as the book comes out, you'll be able to read that and see more about my story and what's going on with what I do in my life and what I do in my career and my work to work with parents. So I am signing off. Thank you, Corinne, so much for tagging me in that post because it kind of sparked this in me. And to those of you who know I do this work, please feel free to tag me in posts that you feel are empowering the parents and posts that you feel maybe need someone to talk a little bit about why shaming isn't as helpful. I want to be able to talk about both things. I want to be able to highlight when people are empowering the parents and give them a thumbs up and keep that conversation going. But I also want to be able to bring more awareness to those of us who maybe don't know how to deal with our discomfort when we see parents doing things we don't like. Again, I don't want to shame people who parent shame, but I want to bring awareness to them about how they can maybe reframe and see what they're doing isn't always as helpful as they think it will be. So thank you. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody. See ya.